Good afternoon and welcome to the Crewe Alexandra Takeover show on FLW TV. I'm Marcus Ali. I'm delighted to be alongside three members of the Railwaymen Podcast this afternoon. We've got Stuart, David Bailey and Mark Birtles alongside me. But without further ado, let's get into the show. Just before we start talking all things Crewe, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to FLW TV on YouTube. You can drop us a follow on Twitter. That's at Football League W. And of course, please do get in contact with us using the comments section. If you've got something to say, we'd love to hear it. And I'll try and put it across to our panel of guests today. To start with you, Mark, and the last result for Crewe Alexandra was a 3-0 defeat in the FA Cup first round against Swindon Town at the weekend. The Robins are flying really in League Two under Ben Garner at the moment, but overall, what did you make of the performance? Was it a welcome distraction from league action? Was it a change side? I know you were at the game. What was the overriding emotion coming away from it?
The overriding emotion was I felt let down and disappointed. I think on Saturday morning, as a fan base, we're looking for anything to cling to offer a bit of hope just at the minute, and for me, it was the removal of the pressure of the league. There's not that pressure of trying to get 3 points. It's not an absolute disaster if we go out of the FA Cup in the first round, even though you don't want to. The world's not going to end. And I thought with that and playing lower league opposition might inspire the side to be a bit more proactive and a bit more adventurous, expansive. And take the game to the opposition because we're at home, we're in a higher league. And this was all the sort of stuff that was coming out from the manager as well. You know, we need to show why we're a League One side. And in the end, we just carried the league form into the cup. There was no shots. There was no real threat. We gave 3 easy, simple, terrible goals away from our point of view. And it was just... It was poor. It really was. It was a massive letdown, if you want the truth.
Okay, yeah, definitely an opportunity missed to maybe just take some attention away from that, from the league form, obviously, with a cup run. David, to come to you next, what were your main takeaways from the matchup and opportunity missed? Obviously, the goals, the way that they came from Swindon, it's the manner of the defeat that's probably more disappointing than the actual falling out of the FA Cup first round itself.
Yeah, I mean, we just don't know where the next win's coming from at the moment. It was a chance to try and get a bit of confidence against the lower league side, but as Mark said, it just didn't happen. And it was so depressing on Saturday evening afterwards. But not, to be honest, just not a surprise. Maybe the scoreline was a surprise, perhaps 3-0, but I didn't think we were going to win. I didn't think we were going to draw. I thought we were going to lose on Saturday morning. So, yeah, just so depressing at the moment.
Definitely one to forget, I think, then. Moving on to tonight's match in the next section. So one small positive of the season so far has been Crewe's form in the Papa John's Trophy. Former winners of the competition, of course, in 2013, and top of their group, going into a bit of a dead rubber, I think you could say, against Wolverhampton Wanderers under 21s this evening. David, what have you made of the performances in the Papa John's Trophy, and do you see it as maybe an avenue to build a little bit of positivity in tonight's match, even with little to play for?
Yeah, as you say, it's the one little bit of crumb of comfort that we've had all season. The 2 wins so far in the Pizza Cup. Apart from that, we've only had 1 league win, which was against Burton, but we have won both the games so far, so we are guaranteed to go through to the next round. So it is a bit of a dead rubber, as you say, but maybe tonight a chance for some of the fringe players to have a go. And a bit of a dress rehearsal really for Friday night when we're playing Bolton in the league. I think David Artell has rolled the dice so many times, come up with different formations, different team selections. Tonight, I think, should just be a chance to sort of do a dress rehearsal for Friday and see if we can get a decent performance tonight we can take into the weekend.
Okay, coming to you, Stuart. Do you agree with David? Should it be treated as a dress rehearsal for the Bolton match, or maybe a chance for Artell to experiment a little more with some younger players in the squad? And just what is your stance on the competition as a whole? Any good memories going back to 2013? Could it be something to find solace in this campaign?
What's my stance on the competition? I mean, you've only got us for 10, 15 minutes, I think, and I could answer that one for about half an hour. I hate it. I really hate it. I hate what they've done to it. It's a lower league cup for lower league clubs, and they've completely ruined it by putting Wolves, Man United, whoever. Crewe did win it in 2013. It was an amazing day out. We got to go to Wembley. It was a proper competition, and it was won by Crewe in the right league for the competition it was in. It's not the same anymore. I just don't care. And do you know what? It's really bad because it splits the fan base. I've got people who go because they want to support the club. And then I have people who don't want to go because they hate the competition. And it shouldn't be about that. This competition should not split the fan base between, do I want to support the club that I support, or should I boycott a competition I don't want them to be in? We had someone on our pod, Steve, who came on and said he'd rather watch Bake Off, and he got in trouble. A couple of people picked up on that and said, you know what? Why is he saying this? He should be supporting the club. He does support the club. He goes every week, but he doesn't want to play Wolves under 23s in a competitive fixture. It's awful. It's a horrible, horrible competition. Possibly not the right question to start me off on, because all I've done is complain since I started speaking. But I mean, without giving away too much of my politics or anything like that, one of my favorite books on football is a guy called John Nicholson, and it's called Can We Have Our Ball Back, Please? And it's all about how money and greed has ruined the game of football. And this is not the be all and end all, but it's a small part of how the big clubs think they can just do what they want, and clubs like Crewe just don't matter because there's only a few $1,000 going to games every week. So do I care? No. But as a Crewe fan who wants Crewe to win, I would rather we put out a good team this week and start winning games ready for Friday. I don't think the time's right for putting youth players out because we need to win games. We've won, as Dave said, one league game this season. I'd like a few more than that before Christmas or the end of the season. So let's find a team that works and play that team.
Absolutely. Yeah, just on the Pizza Cup, as we're sort of affectionately referring it to, I think, when the under-21 sides came in, I think it must have been 4 or 5 years ago. I was just thinking, if you asked me then, would it still be in its current format in 5 years' time? I would have said no way because of the fan uproar that it produced. So, yeah, it is a really sad state of affairs to have it, as you mentioned, splitting the fan base. But hopefully, you know, Wolves under-21s won't be progressing and we can have much of the more traditional clubs moving into the knockout stages. Next up, we're going to talk about the next run of fixtures and how hopefully Crewe can capitalise on them. So coming to you again, Stuart, as we just discussed with David about hoping that tonight's game is more of a dress rehearsal for the Bolton away match on Friday evening. Are you seeing that as a really tricky affair? Obviously, Bolton have shown in glimpses this season what they're capable of, but having lost 4 of their last 5 games, it has to be seen as maybe an opportunity.
Maybe, hopefully. It's been so long. At that Burton game that we've mentioned already, I can't remember when that was, but it feels like a different season. Fortunately for myself, I've actually missed the last few before this weekend because I've been watching the Cricket World Cup. So I've missed some of the more poorer performances recently. I came back to watch the Doncaster game last Tuesday, expecting us to really give it a go against the team that are 23rd and we're 24th. And it was so poor. So do I want Crewe to go into this game thinking they can win because Bolton are on a poor run of form? Absolutely. Do I believe they're capable of doing it? I'm losing that faith, to be honest. Again, I just hope we can find a team before too long that is capable of putting some performances together. Because at the minute, we've got 3 games that we should be putting like little stars next to as games we can get some points against coming up. But if we lose these opportunities, like we lost the opportunity to beat Doncaster, we didn't lose, we got a point, but you know they are very poor. So if we lose these opportunities, then we're going to be running out of opportunities against the teams down the bottom. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be playing the teams that are back at the top again. So hopefully, but I'm not too optimistic.
Fair play. Just from the outside looking in, these next 3 fixtures, as you rightly mentioned, David, do seem like real crunch encounters. Would you say, David, the matches against Bolton, Gillingham coming up at home, and then Wimbledon on your travels in a couple of weeks, it is really do or die? The Crewe have to get a win in these next few games to I'm not going to talk about staying up, but even just build some optimism and try and get something at least out of the season and this next few months as we move towards the January transfer window?
It's absolutely crucial. But then again, beating Doncaster last week was absolutely crucial and we didn't do it. So, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, if we're serious about having any survival hopes at all, we've got to win all 3 games. If that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So, what can we do? We've just got to try our best. I think having a squad, a team that stays the same is crucial. Something we've been talking about on our podcast, but we seem to be changing so often. You just need to settle on a settled side and try and get some consistency and just give the players a bit of belief. But at the moment, I just can't see where it's coming from.
Okay, moving on from the few matches that lie ahead of us, we're going to look more internally next. So, Mark, coming to you first on this one. There's been some outstanding young talents cutting their teeth, coming through the Crewe youth ranks in recent years. Unfortunately, we've seen a handful of them move away in recent years, the likes of Ryan Wintle, Charlie Kirk, Perry and G. Do you think the next players coming through the Crewe youth setup and just younger players in the squad that you think can really step up to the mantle in years to come and hopefully, hit the headlines for their own achievements in the near future?
Well, I think the next one to leave, without jumping ahead to what you want to talk about in a little while, is Tommy Lowry. But that's not going to be a move that's going to be like the others. The fans aren't going to be behind that. But we'll move on to that. In terms of potential, Luke Offord is looking an accomplished centre-half, although I'm not 100% convinced that's where he'll end up playing. He's quite comfortable at right back. He's not the tallest in the world, and I think the higher up the leagues he goes, he might find that he's exposed. And I'd like to see him. He's played in a defensive midfield role before, and I'd like to see him play that for a couple of games and just see how it goes. Sometimes at Crewe, being adaptable and able to play in a few positions works against you, and that's worked against Callum mainly. If you'd have asked me sort of 2 years ago, he'd probably been one of the first names I would have said, but he's fallen off the radar and not really fulfilled his potential as yet. Rio Adebisi is another who's got potential, but he's not ready to go yet. He's a left back he can play at right back, but he's a lot more vulnerable. Defensively, he's not too bad, although he's not been great in the last few weeks, but nobody has. But I think if you compare him to Harry Pickering, for example, he's not got the same attacking threat yet. He's got to develop that area of his game, as very little comes from him from that aspect. But hand on heart, and it's probably just as well given the form we're in, nobody's ready to go yet. I don't see any imminent offers for any of our players aside from maybe Tommy in January.
Okay, so Rio Adebisi, a name you throw into the ring there. Is he someone, Stuart, that you could see really developing in the next few years at Crewe Alexandra? I know he's a player that you guys on the podcast know well.
Yeah, I'd just like to give him his full name. The Railwaymen Podcast sponsored Rio Adebisi. We sponsor him this season. So, yeah, he is probably, I completely agree with Mark. I'm not really going to add anything different there. We've got a couple, none of them are ready yet. But this is, if you follow the hashtag Crewe Alex on Twitter, you will see lots of talk about the cycle. And we're at the bottom of that cycle at the minute. We're at the bottom of that cycle in terms of where we are as a club. We're not a club, as a team that's playing on a Saturday afternoon, but also in terms of the academy players. We've just lost the last batch altogether. The next batch aren't ready to be playing every week. And if they are playing, they're not quite good enough or as good as the ones that have just left, like Rio. So I think Rio does have the capacity to at least go up to another division, up to the Championship. He's not there yet, as Mark said. He's not anywhere near ready yet. Luke Offord as well. I think he has started to struggle recently. When he came into the team a couple of years ago in League Two, he made it look so easy. He just slotted in a very good team at centre-back and played very well. This year, as a struggling side, I think he has struggled more as well, been a bit more exposed maybe. There isn't really anyone else that's sort of breaking through and playing all the time. We've got lots of loan players. We've got lots of players who've sort of come in on 1-2 year deals. If, we're talking maybe the goalkeeper, Willie Jääskeläinen, again, not ready yet. There's quite a lot of talk about whether he's probably at the highest league he'll play anyway. Billy Sass-Davis just started coming into the team, 21. He's in the Welsh under-21 squad this week. Centre-back, very big, could go on to a career dominating in the back. I don't know. It's, again, too early. So, yeah, I do just agree with Mark, really.
Okay, so talking about the ins and outs and potential ones at Crewe, of course, we've got the January transfer window coming up in a couple of months. For me, just looking at last season and how Burton Albion will maybe cut adrift in League One, maybe a little bit further down the line than we are now. They obviously sort of chanced their arm on a lot of new players in the January transfer window. It ended up clicking. It was quite a rare occurrence that they shot up the table the way they did. But David, moving towards the January transfer window, are there any particular areas of the pitch, maybe not every single position, but one or two in particular where you think Crewe really need to strengthen?
It'd be nice to get the whole team in. I don't know whether it'll make any difference. I think that up front, really, I mean, that's what any football fan's going to say when you're not scoring goals. But it just hasn't clicked yet. We've got Chris Porter, who's 38, who's just about holding his own, but his legs have gone. Mandron, we'll perhaps talk about him in a bit, but he's not anywhere near the player he was last season. And the sort of the lone players that we've got in, Bennett on the left wing, help me out, lads, who are the others? There just doesn't seem to be firing.
Ben Knight as well.
Ben Knight, that's right. He was injured for a bit, wasn't he? Yeah. And the ones that we've signed, Cashket as well. Long, Christopher Long came in and he's injured again. Just haven't really got a settled front line. So if we can do anything to boost that front line, I would vote for that.
Okay, next up, we're going to talk about a figure of quite a lot of debate around the club at the moment. Mark, I'm going to come to you first on this one. Now, David Artell, we were speaking off air about how it's important to have more of a long-term mindset rather than just trying to pull the trigger whenever anything goes wrong at a club. Do you think he's deservedly under pressure at the club at the moment? Can you see him being sacked if Crewe cannot pick up a win maybe in the next 3 games, that we'd identified? Or does he have enough credit in the bank from getting the club up from League Two and maybe suggesting that he could be as good a man as anyone to try and replicate that success should the worst happen and the club are relegated this season?
The answer to the first 2 questions is no. No, he doesn't deserve to be under pressure, and no, I don't think he's going to be imminently sacked. Now, that's not to say I'm condoning results. What I am saying is that he's had the core of a very good side ripped out, and they've gone. And it's hard for Crewe to sign players anyway. I've said a few times on our podcast, if Crewe are after a player, it's likely that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clubs are after him and they'll offer more money. So that's difficult in the first instance to replace him. So he's done his best. But football fans have got very selective memory sometimes, especially when things aren't going very well. And when he took over from us, we were languishing near the bottom of League Two. And our league status was under threat. And he turned the side around and we went into some terrific form. I think if we'd had that form for a little bit longer, we may even have pushed into the playoffs that season. And ever since then, the club's progressed. And that was never going to be able to be sustained. We were going to go up again and then up again. It had to bottom out at some point. Now, I don't think any Crewe fan, and certainly not me, ever expected it to bottom out quite like this. And I don't think that he can be judged too quickly on his signings. I said this on Monday's pod, that football fans have got the benefit of hindsight. Whether that's after a signing or after a game or after a result or after 15 games, the manager hasn't got that. He has to do what he thinks is best in the moment. He signed 2 players that were, I assume, high on his hit list in the summer, and then they unbelievably both decided to retire. And then we've had 2 contract rebels that have just added to it. So I'm not making excuses for him because the performances have been largely awful. Having said that, they're factors. They are factors. You know, you can't discount that. He's had to deal with that, and we've had a norovirus bug at the beginning of the season, which didn't help, and we've had COVID like everybody else has. So, yeah, like I say, they're factors, but they're not excuses to hide behind. He's had long enough now, but I would stick. Me personally, I know some people don't agree, and that's fine. Football's all about opinions. I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong. Time will prove that. But at the moment, I don't see a viable alternative, to be honest, for everything that he puts into the job. He deserves certainly a little bit longer.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree, to be honest. I think that's a very, very fair assessment of the situation, Mark. Next up, we're going to be asking the question on some people's lips. So, Stuart, I'm going to come to you first. I know you've hinted at what you think is going to happen, but can you see Crewe staying up this season?
My one-word answer is no. Just to pick up on what Mark said there, he said he doesn't think that Dave Artell should be under any pressure and should he be sacked. He didn't think that. I would say he definitely doesn't or shouldn't be sacked, but I definitely think he should be feeling pressure because at the minute, if nothing changes, then this is a relegation team. This team will be playing in League Two next year. The thing with Dave Artell is he does put a lot of pressure on himself already. He's there all day, every day. He does the scouting. He does, the player transfer targets, contracts and things like this. He does it all himself. So I definitely think he needs more time. He's definitely got enough credit in the bank. And I know people on Crewe Twitter are getting fed up of using, seeing or hearing that phrase. But he does, the reality is he does. He does need to change something. And in my opinion as well, I think he needs to understand that credit in the bank, he is now using that up. This is the time when that credit is being used up. So if nothing changes, if the results stay the same, if the performances stay the same, then Crewe will not stay in League One this season. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
Coming to you next, David. Can Crewe do it?
They can. Miracles can happen. It's going to be very, very tough. And just adding to what Stuart and Mark were saying, I think David Artell should stay. That's my opinion. Again, not everybody agrees with that. But the alternatives for Crewe would be realistically bringing somebody in who's already in the club, promoting somebody from youth team coach or whatever. That's kind of what they do. The last time they tried to get an external person in, they got Gudjon Thordarson in, and that was even more of a disaster. So these days they try and promote from within, or at least somebody who's got connections with the club. And you might throw the dice. The director might try and change it, but I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect really, because all the managers at Crewe will try and play the same way anyway. It's the Crewe way, the kind of the passing attractive football. And if somebody else comes in and tries to hoof it, then the fans will go against them. So I think they can do it. And if they don't, I think David Artell will still be there next season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Stranger things have happened, haven't they, Mark? Where do you sit on this one? Can Crewe stay in League One this season?
I'm ever the optimist, so yes, they can. There's enough points to play for. And, I'm one of these football fans that's fed up on Saturday night and all day Sunday. And then come Monday morning, I'm like, well, we can win the next one. Obviously, games are running out. We've already played Shrewsbury, Morecambe, Cambridge, Fleetwood, Doncaster. They're all sides with the greatest respect that you would imagine will be down there with us, and we've not beaten them. But as I've just said, when he first took over, he managed to turn the club round and the performances round and go on some a really good run of form. And it's not impossible to do that again. It's going to have to start very soon. And I don't think he's going to be able to do much in January. My experience of January transfer windows are the players that get circulated are like players that are running the contracts down or aren't playing somewhere else. And you're not going to really sign anyone that's going to come in and make a massive difference. So, as we've already alluded to earlier, the next three games, Bolton, Gillingham and Wimbledon, are massive. And if he is going to pull off the miracle, then it needs to start on, well, tonight really, but Friday.
Okay, still keeping the faith then that the Great Escape is on. Yeah, we're going to end off after this. So that brings us to the end of the Crewe Alexandra Takeover show on FLW TV. Please do drop a like on the video and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and make sure you check out the Railwaymen podcast. I'm sure you can tap into all of the expert insight from our panel today. Thanks a lot, Stuart, David, and Mark, and thanks for watching.